Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chakra Way Meditation Podcast. Today, I'm joined by a guest that I'm really excited to talk to. I feel like I'm going to have to speak in twice as fast because there's so much that we want to get through in this episode. I'm talking to Cathy Gabrielsen, and Cathy is an Ayurvedic coach, an intuitive healer, and an energy medicine practitioner. And Cathy also works extensively and deeply with the chakras. She has all sorts of beautiful chakra content on her website. I had a lovely lost few moments, 10 more than a few moments, surfing around in her website, which is just her name, cathygabrielsen.com. So welcome, Cathy. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, you're very welcome. And as I said before, when we were chatting, the thing that drew me to you first off was the this Ayurvedic coach side of you. I mean, I feel like before we get delving into all of the modalities that you use and so on, tell me how you came to be what you are and how you came to be in this beautiful world of healing and energy. What drew you here?
What really drew me here was I had breast cancer when I was 32. So I was a young mom with babies, and I had the experience with a healer. And at that time, I didn't know what it was. And I just knew that I wanted to do everything I possibly could. And I hadn't done any alternative medicine really, truly before. And then I just became across this chakra healer, is what she called herself. And something transformative happened in my time with her when I was there. And then, fast forward another 10 years, I had about recovering with some post-surgical issues regarding my breast cancer. I developed sepsis
Mm.
and nearly died. And I had healed from that near-death experience and came back with horrendous PTSD, anxiety, and depression. And I just wanted to find a chakra healer, somebody that could help me with that emotional stuff and so I found energy medicine and I found chakra healing, and I couldn't find a chakra healer in in my town. So I said, oh, I'm just going to teach myself. I'm going to heal my own chakras. And that's really how it all began. I just learned, and then it just kept growing, and I wanted to learn more and more and more.
Yeah, so
And that
then
led to Ayurveda, and then that led to all kinds of different things that I like to do now.
I know, because I was looking at the list of all the modalities you use that you've got on
Yeah,
your website, and it is extensive. It's like literally an A to Z of modalities. And I was like,
yeah.
I don't even know what half these things are. This is fascinating. And actually, I need to go back onto that portion of your website and just go, what's this? And what's that?
Yeah.
But we've got more to talk about before I go back into all of that fine detail. So the Ayurvedic stuff, did that come as a result sort of after the chakra work, or was it one of the things that helped you heal? Because Ayurvedic is quite a practical healing tool, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And the chakra healing came first. And then I came across Deborah King, who is my mentor and teacher. And she taught me all these really incredible, really advanced healing modalities to incorporate with the work I was already doing. And then I just was really drawn to Ayurveda. I don't know what it was, but I wanted another tool in my toolbox, and not even needing another tool in my toolbox. I just felt like there was a little bit more.
Mm.
And what I realized that was so helpful about the Ayurveda is, so much of, you know, our challenges, I'm a middle-aged woman, postmenopausal, and it was resisting really my true nature. And so I was always wanting to identify as something that I really wasn't. But Ayurveda really helped me understand who I am, what my body wants, and why I may have anxiety, why I might be predisposed to this, that, or the other thing. So it was really a wake up to really who I am, what my constitution is. And in energy healing and energy medicine, the Ayurveda has really helped me when I see a client, knowing if they're Vata, Pitta, or Kapha, and what they might be predisposed of, and where illnesses, are are seen in Ayurveda and how that relates to energy healing. And so it's been a nice little compliment, but I'm
Yeah,
not like knee deep into it, knee deep. But
yeah.
it's just another way for me to help people really accept themselves, know themselves, because that's the whole goal, right?
Mhm.
True, happiness, health, and it all is when we really get to identify our true self and our purpose and our soul, and it was just another way for me to accept myself and help other people as
Yeah,
well.
I love that. I mean, I have a sort of a passing interest that Ayurveda, it's one of those things that's kind of for me is sort of floating out there. And I know that it's a really very kind of significant portion of Indian healing techniques. And when I've been in India on yoga retreats, I always, the place where I go is famous for its Ayurvedic treatment centers, and people go there. And a friend of mine recently just went off for a 5-day retreat to be very personally treated.
Mhm.
And, she was very particular in one direction. She had an excess in one, and so they've balanced her out. She came back. I saw her. She looked like a peach. She looked so glowing and just extraordinary. So, for those of us, I should say, and I know, yes, the Vata, Pitta, Kapha are the basic three sort of ways that you can be, and you want to be balanced between them. But can
Mhm.
you give us a really kind of idiot's breakdown of what they mean? Because if you can recognize in yourself and you go, actually, I feel like from that basic description, I'm very Pitta, and
Mhm.
that means that I am imbalanced. That might explain a few things in my life. it
Yeah.
it might give a nice little sort of introduction to people to what their Ayurvedic status is.
Yeah. So the in Ayurveda, there's three doshas, your Vata, Pitta, or Kapha. And those doshas are, your constitution. And what that means is we're all made of the earth elements, so are you space and air, are you fire and water, are you earth, what are you? What do you what do you have within your own constitution? And each one, a Vata, a Pitta, or Kapha, the Vata is airy and light, and they're usually kind of real thin. They're long fingers, longer noses, they're and your Prakriti is your dosha, that's what it is you start to really can identify I want to say in your maybe 12 to maybe 20, 25, that. So if you could think about what your body constitution was then, what you really looked like then, because what happens is now, I may be heavier now or this, that, the other thing, but it just usually means that one of my doshas is really seriously out of whack. So Vata, Pitta, or Kapha, and each dosha, each prakriti is made up of different earth elements. So Vata, space and air, and that is governs all movement within your body. So if your every system, all the systems of movement, circulatory system, digestive system, all the systems. So if you have a system that's not right, then your Vata is likely out of balance. So you would want to calm that Vata and stop moving so much. Be calm, stop running, stop traveling, stop going, stop doing. Just be a little bit more calm. Calm the movement. Slow down.
But this
Okay.
again, if we relate this to the chakras, I'm instantly thinking that's overactive Manipura chakra. That's kind of
Yeah.
like over doing too much,
Yeah.
excessive energy.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
They need to ground. You need to ground
Mm.
because they're like floating. Like Vadas are like floating. They need to ground. They need to stay present. And so what happens is when you're too much of your dosha, if you're a Vata and you're moving too much, it's gonna throw you out of whack, you
Mm.
know. And then the Pitta is that fire, we're sharp, we're hot, we're intense. We like to talk. We like to, we're really, great speakers and we get the work done, but we can get angry and hot and we have to cool down. We need to cool our fire. And kaphas, they're just earth. they're filled with such love and compassion. They're more kind of like a heavier presence. Pitta is more of a just a a very average build, and your Vata is always a real thin, wiry build. And Kaphas, they're just full of love and kindness, and they're sweet. And so the Kaphas, lots of sweets and not moving that heavy, will start to make a kapha out of balance. So you balance your dosha by doing the opposite. So if my pitta is on fire and I've got red patches and pimples and skin irritations, then I got to cool my system. So then, you do things that are cooling, be around water, go swimming. Your cough is heavy, sweet, and they like to get on the couch and stay on the couch. Look out the window at the birds, but those kaphas, they got to move. And then
Yeah.
your ratas have to slow down. They have to slow down.
But it's very much to do with, is it also, and maybe this is just because my friend's just been on this retreat and she was telling me all the sort of things that she had to do dietary wise. Diet is a big part of the Ayurvedic because you can really eat for your dosha,
Yes.
can't you? So I think if this is, I just wanted to kind of just dip into this because you have this in your tool bag, because I think it's a really interesting, valuable tool. And most people have heard of Ayurveda and they just think, oh, that means I get massage with a whole lot of oil. Fine. It is sometimes. And, and
Yeah.
those treatments, those massage treatments. So what I understand of Ayurveda is that it's these treatments, it's diet, but it's also lifestyle, and it's recognizing where you sit on this spectrum of this balance between the three types that you can be. And it's a fascinating thing. So you incorporate this with your chakra healing, do you? Does it inform the chakras for you?
It's not necessarily, I mean, the Ayurveda is, it's all about your mind, body, and spirit. It's about really healing the whole of you. And we are spirit. I mean, we are primarily spirit. So it is kind of the focus on, healing that spirit part of us. And so I am an Ayurvedic coach, and I am, slowly considering, I wanted to be a practitioner and doctor. And then I thought, oh, I'm going to do that, and my husband's like, stop studying, just, you don't need any more information. But I'm really happy with it. And I'm really contemplating going further into it. And the only thing that has kept me from really pursuing even more is thinking, I don't know how much of this I really am able to realistically incorporate into my life, you know. But what I understand is that, I'm not in India. That's not how I grew up. I'm in the United States. I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I'm going to do the best I can with what my knowledge is of Ayurveda and apply that in my life. And that's healthy, you
Yeah.
know. That's
Yeah.
healthy. Just even being aware of other things like the foods, and am I going to be able to get into all of it and incorporate all of it? I just don't think that's realistic. But what I tell people is even just a little bit, even incorporating a healing plan,
Mm-hmm.
incorporating meditation, incorporating good food, so lots of
Exactly. I
things.
mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of unrealistic to expect your average person who's coming to you to start drinking ghee or
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
having the big, the treatments, the massages. They're very, yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot to be a
Yeah.
full-on Vedic doctor, actually.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
love the fact that you're kind of incorporating it into the work that you do. I think that's really beautiful.
Mhm.
Um, so thank you for giving us a little bit of an insight into
I
your.
hope that wasn't, I hope that was dialed down enough so that I could.
Yeah, no, that was perfect because I think it just gives what I'm all about is giving as many tools as I can to people to go, oh yeah, and they may have forgotten, go, yes, of course, I meant to think about, buy a book on Ayurveda and stuff, because I think it can be really useful. It's as simple as things of like, if you're, I don't know, you'd have to tell me which one, but actually I should eat less chili and more cucumber. It's as good as that. Like if you're the heat spicy person, you may just like, oh, I have chili sauce with everything. Maybe it's
Yeah.
time to cut that out. There's really simple things like that, isn't it?
That's just like you said, that's great advice. Yeah, it's just knowing a little bit about what you're inclined to do and what's not healthy for you. Because, a lot of people are fasting or they're doing this, that, or the other thing. Different different people with different prakrutis, they have different needs in their body, you
Mm,
know? So if you really attune with your own makeup, and have an appreciation for, no, this is what works for me. And, it's really helpful. And it helps us to get to know ourselves and appreciate ourselves more, and who we are and, how we were designed.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that must inform your chakra work and your chakra healing beautifully. So
Yeah.
let's get into this. So we both work with the chakras. We both love the chakra healing. So I want to just ask you how your practice goes. Like, so I'm a client, I come to you, I go, I'm having trouble with not knowing what I'm doing with my life, or I'm just, whatever the problems that people have. What is your process when you start looking at somebody through the chakra lens, if you like?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I mean, the chakras are just honestly just really so helpful in my healing. Really, just and when someone comes to me now, I it's all by Zoom. I have my clients are all over, and I will just, you know, um really just kind of start to feel into their field. So I hope I'm answering the question the way that you are
Yeah.
thinking. So yeah, so if you come, I'll just, I'm guided. Everything I hear, see, and sense is really information that's been handed to me. And so I just I allow myself to be present and witness and see and sense and hear exactly where the energy is blocked. And um yeah, so if you came to me, I would just
Just
kind of go right into it. Just go right in. I'm like thinking, what am I gonna do? So I would just get right in and I would ask, where the area of block is and where the chakra is that needs the healing. And I can see my hand go to that area, and then I'll see the primary issue, whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual. And then it kind of evolves, and I will start to see um, whether there's attachments, vectors, or, dark energy attached, or the cords that come out of the chakras, uh, and so it just kind of is a process. When someone comes, I'll see or sense just what needs to be healed in that moment. And then removing that oftentimes leads to more healing and filling that dark space with light once that energy's been removed. So, yeah, so it's clear balancing and charging the chakras with each session that I'm doing, and then that could ignite an inner child rescue. That could ignite a fifth level healing or a higher, deeper maybe a much higher level healing. So yeah, it's hard to say because it's so
I know.
experiential. I know you're saying like, okay, what does it do? But I think every session is different and each person comes different. I love you're working with younger people, younger people in their 20s. Well, I love working with everybody, and it's such a blessing and a gift, but I love when younger people come and their spirits are so pure, they're so not like, us middle-aged older people that we've got so much crap in our field that, we gotta like get that crap out. Yeah.
But when you're describing how you work, it feels very it feels to me as if you're kind of almost using Reiki like sort of energy, like it's a Reiki kind of a vibe, and that you are just literally sensing into what that person feels. And I find that really interesting because I've always kind of relied on, and I know it's a very intuitive tool, but I rely on my pendulum. So I'm like, oh, I can't do
Yeah.
this myself. I need my pendulum. So I use that, but I'm beginning to realize now that actually I can sense into things more. I don't need it. It just gives me confirmation because I doubt myself because, you know, that's what we do, isn't it? We
Yeah. Yeah.
have this question mark over what we're doing, and time again, our intuition and this connection with this essentially with third eye intuition, just being able to see what it is that people are dealing with in their inner world, in their, as you say, and it could be. And it's interesting because, I came to it from a very physical side. I came to chakras through yoga. So my understanding of this was very much built on the physical side of things. It's like, oh, okay, so if you've got emotions stuck, let's do some hip work, let's get physical. you
Right.
know
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's a completely, so this is why, that's always my go-to. It's like, right, well, your heart's a bit open, so let's do some back bends. Let's literally open your heart chakra. That's how I came to it. And now I'm beginning to feel more into it as you are, of just like sensing what's
Yeah.
there. It's a
Yeah.
fascinating.
I love it that I love how you just explained your approach, because I love that. And I didn't realize the movement and the chakras until I really started studying Ayurveda. And I was like, oh yeah, yeah, I see it now. Like I can do these movements and help people open their chakras. But the pendulum, I trained with my pendulum. I use my pendulum. I mean, it sits on my desk, but what I did to not rely on it so much was I would ask myself, and where the chakra is out of balance, and then I would visualize what the pendulum was looking like. So it was almost like I could see it in my mind's eye, a pendulum.
Okay.
And yeah, so I started to do that, and then I'd back it up with the pendulum and see if it actually did it the way I was intuiting it. It was
Yeah.
just a way for me to kind of,
Test
let,
yourself out of it,
test
really.
myself out.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
that. That's so
yeah,
fascinating.
yeah.
And so with your work, that you've got all these extraordinary things that you do, like, for example, if so somebody comes to me and they say, they've got an overactive solar plexus chakra, the classic sort of, works too hard, does too much, burn, almost on the verge of burnout, whatever. I love to go to not only the physical stuff, but real lifestyle stuff as well. Do you give advice on that kind of thing as well? Or do you give lifestyle stuff? So for me, if someone comes with an overactive chakra, solar plexus chakra, I always say, go have some fun. Let the waters of the sacral chakra, dampen down the fire of your solar plexus. Go and have a laugh. Go to a comedy night. Or if the third chakra is blocked, I say sing as if your life depends on it. So they're really kind of bizarre, um, slightly random lifestyle things to advise people to do. And I'm just wondering what your, how you, because it feels to me like you are actually doing the healing. You are able to manipulate somebody's energy. Am I right? Or yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So, um, I don't know Reiki. I never practiced it, but I know that it's healing.
Yeah.
It's healing. So when I work, I'm very connected to the divine feminine, and I carry the energy of the, the Virgin Mary is my primary guide. And with her energy, I can sense her kind of dropping down around my energy field. When I'm beginning a session, I can feel who she's intending me to work with, her, or she'll show me another soul or spirit, and I can feel them enter my body. And as soon as they enter my body, my hands kind of transform to the hands of that person. And it's like they step in and then they step out, if that makes any sense. And so I can feel them, come in. Yesterday, I had a healing, a very, very dark energy attachment, and I saw like an army come behind me, but of like angels, that they were actually going to be the ones that like take off it. So I love the way you said that. I do I'm a conduit to the healing, in that I can see them come into me and move through my energy field. And it's as if I'm watching a movie and I can see them manipulating the energy field, removing that dark attachment, removing that, um, So the over that solar plexus chakra that's overpowering, it's like, it's kind of like taming them, dragging, like settle down, pull them back, and like I'm shown the most oftentimes the wound that created the need to overpower. So that's what I see being removed. So that's the part of the energy. And to me, it looks like a black tennis ball often, like just a big dark spot that needs to be removed. And I'll just see the energy that's moving through me remove that darkness, that what's causing the chakra to be out of balance.
Yeah, because I mean, this is the thing that is I always find so fascinating, is that behind any blockage or any imbalance that we have in our energetic body, it comes from a wound of some sort, or a belief that we have taken on as a story of our own, or an attachment to something, that more often than not is not something that came from us. It was something that was put to us, either a belief or an idea or a thought pattern that has been instilled by, from childhood, or from a figure of authority, or a careless comment from somebody, or any number of ways that we can be wounded, that we then hold on to. And it's like, you have this wound, and then this massive scar tissue starts to build up around this particular story, which feels to me like that's the imbalance, that's the thing, that like the black tennis ball that you're talking about, which is then drawn out. But how do you approach this? So say somebody has they had a traumatic childhood, for example. They've got an abandonment wound, say, for example, and so they're clingy, or they're, whatever it's come out as. That wound that was a life experience that they had, that created this wound. The memory of that isn't going to just disappear when you do the work, but is the do you find that they say, actually, I can hold that more lightly now once you've done the clearing? How does it work?
The idea or the goal or of what I'm able to witness is that it's the memories are going to be there, but what is removed during the healing session is the emotions that are attached to the wound. So like it's like as if you can see whatever the attachment is to the memory that is removed. So the negative emotions that are connected to that experience, they're the ones that dissolves, if that
Mm,
makes sense. At least that's kind of how I sense it and see it.
yeah.
It's like that's gone. It's just lifted. And some of the work I do is in silence. Sometimes I see abuse or something that um uh they're they're suppressing for a reason. They're not supposed to remember it, but
Yeah.
maybe part of them, it's in their DNA, it's in them that remembers it, and then I can see that removed. I'm so excited to refer some people to you because I love the way that you approach your healing and how it's all physical and you give really good advice. I don't necessarily give advice. I just
Yeah, but
I
this is the wonder
yeah,
of the chakra system, is
yeah,
it lands in all of us in slightly different ways, which is why I just love doing this podcast so much, because I learn so much from other people who are doing this kind of work, doing any kind of healing work to help fellow humans. God knows we all need some help. We all need to have our hand held. I say that 1,000 times a day. You know, we all need something to hang our little, hang all of our stuff on. And I think that, yeah, well, please do refer away. I'm here, willing and
yeah,
able.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah.
so for you, you said earlier when we were talking that you had a couple of really horrible experiences in your life. You call them near-death experiences, and from that you experienced PTSD, especially after the sepsis that you had, after your surgeries and so on. I'm so sorry for you. What a horrible experience to go through. But having come through that, and I want to go back to the near death experiences in a minute, But you said you had PTSD, but you managed to heal yourself from, or you managed to heal that. How did you, was it the same way that you're just describing, that you were just able to manipulate and feel the energy, feel the spirit coming through you to heal? How
No,
did you do that?
no, because I couldn't heal other people until I healed myself. I
Mm,
really had to really, I was just, I mean, I had suicidal ideation. I was just a mess. I just was so broken. So how did I heal that PTSD? It was literally, I had to get to know myself. I knew I was totally out of alignment. I knew I couldn't continue living. And in my near-death experiences, I kept coming back. I kept having to return. So the thought of committing suicide, I'm like, why would I do that? Because I'm going to end up coming right back again anyway, you know? So I had to figure out, I was what I needed to do in my life. And that's what I understood when I was on the other side. And I had to come back to figure out myself. I just didn't know myself. So
mm,
you've got this amazing heart, compassionate, loving energy. And we oftentimes hold heavy on ourselves that empathic connection that we have with other people when we sense or feel their pain. And I just had a lot of stuff that wasn't my own in my energy field, and I spent the majority of my life outside of myself, helping other people and doing everything for other people, that I just got completely out of touch with myself. I didn't even know like my favorite color or even the food I liked. I didn't know anything about myself, so I just had to get back to knowing myself. And then with that came a lot of grounding and a lot of awareness and journaling and meditating.
mm,
So that's really how I healed. Journaling, meditating key, mantra-based meditation, and spending time in nature and really connecting and journaling and praying,
mm.
and forgiving myself and
Yeah,
forgiving people and forgiving life. That was huge. Just, I had to forgive the situations that I had. So that's really how I helped heal that.
that's
Yeah.
a lot of work. That's a big work. And
Was.
I mean that to take yourself from that state of serious trauma to be able to actually drag yourself to a place where I realize I need to journal and meditate and use a mantra and work on myself and sit under a tree and just be. I
Yeah.
mean,
And I was medicated then. I needed it. I was under doctor's care. I would talk to a doctor every single day. They were worried about me. I was worried about myself. But I needed that medication then to help me be calm enough to be able to hear and to be present and take note and then gradually wean off of it. And that was a blessing. But over time, I was able to do that. As I incorporated more natural ways, I was able to let go of the attachment that I needed from the pharmaceutical area.
yeah, no, well, and then what a blessing that is, that it gives you the breathing space to be able to
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
journey
Yeah. I
from.
just never want anyone to feel that feel bad for having to have that type of professional help and
No.
that assistance, because when you're sick like that, you need all hands on deck. Our work, the chakra healing work, is extraordinarily helpful, but you got to have everybody helping you.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to get yourself into a place to be able to ask for help.
Yes,
That's
yes.
the important part. And if the medication gets you there, then that's fine. I mean,
Yeah,
no one says you're on this for life.
yeah,
That's not the ideal, but using it to get yourself to a place where you are able to start doing the work for yourself is, yeah,
yeah.
that's where it is incredibly useful and absolutely valid. So, Cathy, the near death experiences that you had, can you tell me a little bit about, because I'm afraid I'm slightly gruesomely fascinated by near death experiences, and I've listened to a lot of stories, and I hear very similar things. And I hear, there was one thing I was listening to. They said, they've done a collation, over 70,000 stories of people who've had near-death experiences, and they gather everything that they experienced and they collated them, and they're all really, really similar. And so there is very good reason to believe that So you're here as an absolute first-hand witness. So tell me a little bit, as much as you're happy to, about your near-death experience.
Well, I had two near-death experiences. I had one when I was 18 and I was with my boyfriend senior year of high school, and we got in a car accident. We went kind of down a ravine and into this big muddy hole,
Mhm.
and no drinking or drugs or anything involved. It was just a just an unfortunate experience event. And we were in this hole, this filled with mud, and it was late at night. And right before we crashed, I heard a screaming in my ear to put my seatbelt on. And I just remember putting my seatbelt on and screaming for my boyfriend to put his seatbelt on. And he never put his on. This was, 1980, and it was something. And, so we just went smack off the side. He was kind of we went around a sharp turn, and he took the turn a little too fast, and we ended up in a ravine. And we were down there for quite a while, it felt like. And it was all dark, and um I remember he was moaning next to me and dying next to me, and I was terrified. And all I could see was mud and blood. And I remember somebody appeared and said that they were going to get me help. And I just remember being in that car and just looking up at the sky. And then I could sense that I was being pulled. At that time, it wasn't like I saw this tunnel, but I could sense I was being pulled, and I just wanted to be there. And the next thing I knew, there was all these beings, like all these spiritual beings talking, and they were kind of talking around me, and people were healing me, like fixing me. And I understood that I had to come back. And I think part of it was my dad, that my grandfather or somebody really thought that my dad would be really devastated if anything had happened to me. And I also understood that it wasn't my time, that I was going to come back and help heal my boyfriend. So I didn't tell anybody, because why would I tell anybody? I was 18 years old, and they would have thought I was crazy that
Yes.
I was going to come back and use my hands to help somebody heal. So my boyfriend he died about 9 times, and after being resuscitated each time, he went on to live for 20 years, almost 20 years, 19 and a half years, with only the ability to blink his eyes. So I would go there all the time. Every day after school, my senior year, I'd go to the hospital, and I just really believed that I was supposed to be doing something that he needed. And I remember hearing, put his hand here. He needs this, he needs that, he needs a washcloth on his head, and he's too hot, and I remember touching him and holding him and thinking, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm supposed to be here doing this. And then I went every day for years. And then he ended up passing away just shy of 20 years of the accident. And I was devastated because I thought I had failed. I thought I was supposed to be healing him. And then I went into a total dark night of the soul. I got breast cancer. I had little babies at the time, and 3-year-old and 1-year-old. And I just I just turned my light out. I just really thought God was disappointed. And so I kind of just dealt with my cancer. And looking back, I know that I just had a broken heart. I just had a really broken heart, and I hadn't forgiven myself, and I hadn't forgiven the accident. And so I had cancer. And then about 10 years after I had cancer, I had my second near-death experience. And I was vacationing with my family, my two boys and my husband, and I just got really sick. I had had a procedure done on some reconstruction work that I had after my mastectomy, and evidently a massive infection developed. And so I landed in vacation on an island, and then ended up in the hospital. And I can remember um, just was so out of it. I was so sick. I couldn't control my bladder. I couldn't really see. I was dying, really. And I got to the hospital, and they had emergency surgery and removed my breast. And um, I knew in the recovery time I was in the hospital that I was dying, because I knew that feeling of movement and kind of floating above. And so I remember telling my mom and my husband, I said, I just want to let you know I'm dying. And they said, my mom said, no, 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 you're not. And I'm like, oh, no, I am. I know I am. And I never told her about the experience I had had years ago. And in
Mm,
that time, I could see myself floating above the bed and in the room, and I'd be in my body and then above my body and in my body and then above my body. And all the time there was like this um pull for me to go, this like this feeling of just pure peace, and I'm like, oh, I can just go right there. And I'll never forget, thinking I have two children who love me and a husband who loves me, and I want to go to that space. But I just trusted that everything was going to be all right, that they would be okay, that everything would be okay. And finally, after a week, I went into it. I just was like, I don't know. I remember I was having a lot of trouble breathing. I just couldn't breathe, and no one was listening to me in the hospital. I don't know if you've ever been dismissed after being ill, but no one, I just kept saying, and they said, oh, it's common after surgery. And I'm thinking, I've had 14. This isn't common.
yeah.
But what they didn't know was I was bleeding internally. And as a result from the operation. So I couldn't breathe because I was filling up with blood.
Oh,
And so I went that time when I died, when I had the near death experience, I went through. And I went in, and I really thought that I was gonna stay, because up until my second near death experience, I had created a nonprofit. I was of service. I was a teacher. I was a minister. I had so many things that I thought, okay, look at all the great stuff I did. I'm gonna get in this time. And I went, and I remember seeing ancestors. And it was like almost like if you ride an escalator or an elevator and you go up all these floors. And I could see just like relatives, and it was like a welcome home party of like friends and family for centuries that were there. And then you kind of go to another floor, and you're seeing all these angels, and then you see saints, and I just kept going higher and higher. And it was just, I just like I had been there before. And then I remember I saw Jesus, the master healer, and standing right in front of me, and he had his arms outstretched, and his mom, Mary, was right behind him. And what I understand from near-death experiences is that each person, regardless of who your source is, that's who you see,
yeah.
whether it's Buddha or Allah or whatever, that you're returning to where you came from and where you believe you came from. That's where you're going to go back to.
Mm.
And I just fell into his arms, and I remember I was crying. I remember seeing myself crying, and he was hugging me and holding me, and this music, it was like the angels singing. It was just the most beautiful, amazing experience. And I sat in his arms, and he was talking to me, telling me what I needed to do. And it was like I couldn't understand. And I kept, being like, okay, well, look what I did here, look what I did there, and no, no, no. I didn't do it yet. I hadn't done what I was supposed to do. And I just couldn't believe it. So I came back, and so I was so sad that I didn't get to stay. I was so depressed. I was so sad. Um, Really, because I kind of felt like I got rejected again. Here I am thinking I'm doing everything right in my life, and what am I not doing to be able to stay in the arms of my source? And it took me a long time. And that's where the chakra healing began. That's where I had to be like, okay, what the heck is my soul purpose? I got to get in alignment with myself. I got to figure this stuff out.
Yeah.
And so then I came back, and I got the message loud and clear that I was supposed to help people heal, and they needed my body and my spirit to do it, but they weren't able to do it because I hadn't connected with my own self, and I needed to be me. And so all of my life, I wasn't being me. I wasn't honoring myself. I wasn't, it was like, everyone, be kind, be merciful, be the peacemaker, be all this. But that's all the stuff we have to turn inward first.
Yeah.
I had to be kind and merciful to myself. I had all these things that I had given to other people. I hadn't given them to myself ever. And so that was really, really cathartic. That and working with the chakra healing and discovering fears and all kinds of stuff. So if I go back a third time, I am not, I'm staying. I'm gonna do good work from heaven like Teresa, Saint Teresa the Little Flower. I'm not coming back.
It is just, I mean, it's so fascinating to hear a story like this firsthand. I find it so interesting because the alignment with what everybody who has this experience is so there, and this sense that there's this beautiful, overwhelming amount of love and acceptance and peace and connection to source, that is so joyful and so blissful, that is there. Is I find that very comforting personally, as a mortal soul who I know is going to one day die. I can, whilst I don't want to die, obviously, I mean, I think it is very very soothing. I find it very soothing to know that there is that is, it's not just a blank. Yeah, I think because my mum, bless her heart, complete atheist, was very religious when younger, and then completely lost it, and just she just thinks it's just like turning the television off. Everything just goes black and that's dark and there's nothing. And that makes me really sad, that
Mhm.
her belief of what's going to happen, because I worry that if that's your belief, as you said, you go back to where you believe you came from. But if
Mhm.
that's your belief, then that is what your experience will be. And I think her soul deserves more than that. So it makes me sad to think that. So I
Mhm.
choose for myself to believe that in this extraordinary wealth and of infinite love and compassion that is there, on the other side, that you and I think that listening to other stories of people who've come back, it's quite often that they get told something, this is what you're supposed to be doing, this is the message, um,
Mhm.
go back and get your life in order. That's quite a common thing that I have heard. I'm sorry, I've
Mhm.
got a slightly morbid fascination with near-death experiences, but I
No, 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 it's fascinating. I mean, I think it's really helpful, especially in the work that you're doing. You're putting so many people back into alignment. I mean, the work that you're doing is helping them so much get to where they need to be, and that's such powerful, powerful stuff. And regarding sometimes those beliefs that limit us from that connection, they are just in the way, and that truly might not be her belief in her core, you
yeah,
know, and it's that core belief that's going to get her to the other side. That limiting belief is just in the way,
yeah,
but it's not going to keep her from her source,
yeah,
So I don't want you to think she's going to go back into some deep dark hole, because at our core, our core soul self knows where we belong.
yeah,
And
that's true.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, no, no, don't find comfort that she'll go back to where she belongs. That's not,
Thank you.
yeah, I don't want you to think she's going to be but it's interesting, it's really interesting to hear people that have had really dark or really challenging near-death experiences, because some people don't experience they don't experience that, the bright light, they're kind of taught a lesson that, you know, you got to get to the light. And so
Yeah,
sometimes things that aren't so, but in all those near-death experiences, I truly believe that it would they're shown the dark, but they would see the light. They would see the light in the end. Yeah.
mm. And you said that in your work as a healer, as an intuitive healer, that you feel the spirit come through you and you kind of observe it like you're watching a movie.
Mhm.
Do you feel like that gift was kind of given to you, or that gift was opened when in that experience for you?
I think that I received gifts during the first near-death experience. Once you're in the light, once you're tapped by the light, it's the most amazing experience ever. And and I don't think I trusted, I don't think I knew, but I think when I look back on that, what I did was just what I was supposed to do. And that was to hold space and have an open heart and allow a calming presence. Maybe it was healing his mom. Maybe I was just providing him the comfort he needed. Who knew? But I have to trust that whatever happened in those experiences did. It took me a long time to get there. But in
Yeah.
the second near death, I really truly believe I was handed gifts then. And I had to accept them. But I couldn't accept the gifts until I accepted myself. And I
Right.
couldn't allow them to move through me in the way that spirit really wanted until I really opened myself up and healed myself.
So, I mean, I think this thing that you said a few times about really getting to know yourself and forgiving yourself. Now, this is a massive wound of the heart chakra is forgiveness. And
Mhm.
we are hurt. We quite often choose not to forgive for what, it's a big one. But forgiving ourselves, that is way harder than forgiving somebody who's broken our heart or stolen our phone,
Mhm.
whatever it is that they've done. How what what um what inspiration can you give, or what ideas can you give to people who feel like self-forgiveness is something that they need to work on? Because you've said that this is a part of you getting to know yourself, and I think forgiving yourself is probably the most fundamental step. I don't know if you'd agree in that getting to know yourself is forgiving yourself.
Yeah. Oh, huge,
How do we
huge.
do that?
Well, in my mind, I knowing that that's the seat of on the heart chakra, and I had breast cancer. I wanted to make sure my heart chakra was clean as a whistle, and
Yeah.
whatever could get in that way. So forgiveness for me was really huge, and I I didn't how some practical tips. When I was studying under my mentor, Deborah, she had said, write down all the reasons that you need to forgive yourself for, like a situation. What do you need to forgive yourself for? And really who do you have to forgive other people for? So, my relationship with uh, my boyfriend who had passed after the near death experience, I went back and forth and did forgiveness exercises. What did I forgive him for? What did I forgive myself for? The car accident, what did I forget? How did I forgive? What did I need to forgive in that event? And what did I need to forgive myself for? I had to forgive myself for feeling like I was responsible and giving up and not staying with him for the 20 years, but only staying with him for 6 years, So, I mean, I had a lot I had to let go of. It's hard, but I had to forgive myself enough to let go. And so it's a process. It's kind of like, saying it, we say affirmations and these mantras, and we don't necessarily always believe them when we first start saying them. But over time, the more we say them, the more powerful that word is for us. And it's the same thing for the forgiveness exercises. Just telling myself, writing down the list of everything that I need to forgive myself and forgiving myself until over time I can feel that I've actually let it go, kind of like believing it to be true. And the metta prayer that that Buddhist tradition of the loving kindness prayer, that was really helpful too. Just seeing myself and telling myself I'm filled with love and kindness, and another thing, it's was so powerful is just, I would carry around a picture of myself as a child, like that cute little version of myself.
Yeah.
And I really just allowed myself to be that person. And I had to think about myself that that's the energy and the soul of that adorable, cute, perfect, pure child is who I am today. And I had to forgive her because I was letting her down. Every time I did something for somebody else and I thought that sacrifice was so part of my soul purpose and I had to just give everything up, I was denying her. And I had to forgive myself for denying myself the things that I really needed, you know?
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And it is um it is real work. It is
It
work.
is.
It
But
is
you have to
not a
start it. You gotta pick yourself up and say, okay, I'm tired of it. If you're inclined to want to do it, then you need it. That's what we have to remember.
yeah.
If you're inclined to do it, you need it.
Mhm.
What resonates, the things that you're saying, to people. Um, but we got to do the work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so true. And it's lovely what you say about that and I have a picture on my little sort of altar of that you can't see, but
Yeah.
I got a little picture of little happy 3-year-old me, and I often, I look, she's my, it's so important to connect with that inner child and
Yeah, yeah,
conversation, forgive and ask for forgiveness as well, because she'll always give it.
yeah.
Um, this is, oh, it's such important work, Cathy, and I have adored talking to you. Such juicy conversation. It's so good. I feel like we've covered so much stuff, and I've absolutely loved speaking to you. Tell people how they can get in touch with you, and how they can reach out to you if they feel like they. Do you work virtually? Do you do healing sessions on Zoom as well?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I find them. I used to have a practice in my hometown, but I really found the Zoom sessions to be really powerful because it's just me and the energy, like me and you. It's like right here. We
The
just get
energy,
right into it, you know?
the energy is so real on Zoom, and it always blows me away. I almost prefer, and I speak to a lot of people who work on Zoom, energy workers who work on Zoom, and they go, "Yeah, I kind of prefer it. Actually works."
Yeah,
Maybe there's
yeah.
something about the electrics and the laptop and the computer that kind of amplifies the energy or something. I don't know, but it
I
works.
know. I mean, like you are like you're so light. Like so it's like you're I love it. I really do. And I've had clients that it was a tough time switching them from in person to Zoom, but it works. It really does. So they can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Cathy Gabrielsen, and my website. I'm just cathygabrielsen.com and you
And it's
know,
worth noting that your Gabrielson is with an E, the SEN, not
yeah,
SON at the end.
yes. Yeah. And I did write a book, Dying to Live, Surviving Near Death, and it was a #1 bestseller. And that's kind of the story of how I helped heal myself. How
Beautiful.
because we're meant to share, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had so much fun. Thank you so much for having me on today. And I loved our conversation and I really love the work that you're doing. And I'm gonna come see you. I'm gonna have you give me some
Yeah.
advice about my chakras.
Oh, wonderful. Let's do it. Let's talk off air. Let's do a
Yeah, yeah,
skill swap.
yeah,
That would be
yeah,
wonderful.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for
Yeah.
joining me today.
Thank you.